startup schools, and it's a little different this year. However, we're still going to go with it, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun. And thank you for taking the time out this afternoon, this evening, to attend this lecture session. I promise it's going to be worth it. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm a passionate observer of life, a curator of all things that lead to wisdom, and a very much visual thinker. Everybody's got superpowers, and my superpower seems to be to find the correlation between things that are seemingly unrelated and extract the wisdom from them. And I'm also passionate about pop culture, and startups and entrepreneurship. And I love mashing them all together to come out with an elixir of hope, encouragement, while providing valuable information. So a little bit about my professional career. I've spent more than 20 years in financial services. I've worked in a mutual fund company, for an insurance company, as well as an international NGO. And I've had the pleasure of going to do rural assessments in places like Ethiopia, Ghana, Burkina Faso, Paraguay, and a few other countries. I've also worked in government relations for the provincial government as a director, as well as currently I'm doing business development and coaching, and I'm also passionate about mentoring. I've sat on several boards of directors, including the Ontario Trillium Foundation, as well as the Teresa Group, which is an HIV/AIDS charity where I was board chair, and Sinfonia Toronto, where I was vice president of marketing chair. Okay, this is just a little glimpse of some of the projects that I had the pleasure of visiting internationally. The one on the far left is from Burkina Faso. They are making shea butter. And in the middle is it's a uniform making program, a micro enterprise startup. And as well on the right in Ghana, this is a composting project. On the bottom here, this is Senegal. This is a soap making factory. And again, we're back to Ethiopia. And this is a leather and wallet making project. So we're going to take a look at tonight's agenda. We're going to look at the difference between the brain and the mind. And we're going to look at the 9 mental obstacles and how to overcome them. We're going to learn what it means to thrive through uncertainty, and we're going to be examining mental health. And then we're going to be gathering some of the collective wisdom from real life and pop culture, and we're going to learn what you'll need to put in your mental toolkit to become more resilient. I'm going to leave you with some key takeaways at the end and definitely some resource materials. And of course, I am an avid reader, so I absolutely believe it's my duty to share my recommended reading list. So the 9 mental obstacles this year we're going to cover are actually new from the previous years. And I thought I would make this sort of COVID specific because we are going through many things involving COVID. And I believe that these would be appropriate to dealing and thriving through COVID. So definitely there is uncertainty, instability, lack of self-care and mental health. That's a big one. Of having a fixed mindset, not being flexible. The fear factor, fear, anxiety, all the things that come with it, worry. Loneliness is a big one because there's a lot of isolation for people. Poor management of our time and our priorities and our resources, and how to navigate and manage relationship. And also the last one, which is not being your own BFF. So in entrepreneurship and in life, success is actually an inside game. And now we're going to take a look at what is the difference between the brain and the mind. The brain is actually a physical organ, as we all know, associated with the mind and consciousness. But the mind is not confined to the brain. Your transcendent world of thought, feeling, attitude, belief, and imagination. So here are some interesting facts about the brain. I was astounded by these. 75% of our brains are made up of water. The human brain triples in size in our first year of life. The human brain contains 100 billion neurons. Multitasking actually reduces your effectiveness and mental sharpness by 50%. The average adult brain weighs just a mere 3 pounds. Cholesterol, things like healthy fats like omega-3s and omega-6 are keys to learning and memory. That's why diets that include the ketogenic diet have been effective with drug-resistant epileptics and have been used for type 2 diabetics. Our brains use 20% of the available oxygen and blood in our bodies. The brain activity can actually power a small light bulb. The brain can generate 12 to 25 watts of electricity, and reading out loud uses different circuits in the brain than actually reading silently. And the last one is the brain generates 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day. So within the toolkit of the mind, your mental faculty, you have your consciousness, you've got your imagination, your perception, your thinking, your intelligence, your judgment, language, memory, emotions, instinct, and faith. So as you can see, the mind is chock full of stuff. Some of the current day mental challenges externally and internally include: externally, it might be health challenges, it might be financial strain right now, it might be the politics of the day, which can appear to be very toxic and impact negatively on your mental health. It can be the negative news cycle, it can be negative friends and family, and it can also just in generally be the global pandemic. Also, internally, things like we can be beset and beleaguered by fear, worry, anxiety, stress, pressure, panic, depression, and again, mental health. So you can see how important it is for us to actually take care of our mental faculty. So now we're going to look at ways that we can actually thrive through uncertainty and COVID-19. And hopefully you will find these tools useful. So let's take just a textbook definition of what it means to thrive. Thriving is to grow, develop, transform, evolve, prosper, and flourish. And that's what we all hope to do. COVID-19 was an absolute worldwide disruptor. It was a game changer, and it's been a global crisis. So how has it impacted us? Well, anyway, here's a look at a musical teacher who wrote a song to express how she felt having to work remotely through COVID.
No sound. There's no sound.
Oh no, we can't hear it, Carol.
Oh, you can't hear it?
No, that's weird. Sorry about that. Normally,
oh, okay. Okay.
This is good though. This is funny.
Okay, it is. All right.
Hold on, I'll pull it up on my phone and play it.
Yeah.
Hold on.
It's actually really quite funny. I thought we'd start off with a good laugh.
What's it called, Carol?
It's called Music Teacher Writes COVID Song.
Teacher. There we go. Hold on. Don't worry. I got you guys.
All right.
But of course, it is a tricky time for teachers, and they're doing a...
Oops, hold on. We'll skip through part of this because it's like found on a news thing.
Hey, so as some of you guys might know,
You should play it, Carol. Play it.
There you go.
The best ways that I can process the whole transition to online learning and teaching is to write a song. So I wrote a song. I'd like to share that with you guys now. Here we go. So that pretty much sums up how we probably all collectively feel about this global pandemic. Anyway, so we're going to look at the definition of crisis, because crisis is affecting us all right now. It's a particular time of intense difficulty, a time of trouble, a time of danger. I think that would be apropos as a definition, as well as the effects of crisis inflict fear and trauma, anxiety and panic, depression, frustration, loneliness, worry, hopelessness, sense of loss, fear of death, and the urgency for survival. That's why you see a million people running to Costco buying toilet paper, because our primal instincts are kicking in for survival.
And a crisis can produce negative consequences like mass panic, increased crime, domestic violence, mental abuse, substance abuse. So this, unfortunately, is part of the reality that we are dealing with right now. And how to thrive through a crisis, I've kind of isolated out 5 key points that I think would be very helpful to focus on during this time. Number 1 is be still. Build in a pause into your daily activities and embed some silence and quiet into your life. Meditate. You can meditate on an ancient text like the Quran or, the Bible or the Torah, or take a walk in nature or practice mindfulness. Number 2, you want to assess your mental health and your mental stability. And if you know that you have a continual cycle of negative thought patterns, then I would definitely recommend you seek help right away. Don't delay. Number 3, take stock and take care of your current resources. Don't hoard, don't be wasteful, but make effective use of what you have right now. Be a good steward over your resources. Number 4, you're going to want to economize and maximize the minimum to get the most out of the least. And also acquire only the things that you need. Use and engage your creativity, and don't live beyond your means. Now is the time definitely to save, conserve, and protect your resources. So how to thrive through a crisis. Number 6, never respond permanently to a temporary situation. So there are reports in the news that there are a lot of people who are committing suicide. That is a permanent solution to a temporary situation. And so definitely if you're ruminating with thoughts like that, then again, I am going to emphasize to seek professional help. Train yourself to see crisis as opportunity. So this is a time where you want to refine your business, find a way that you can level up. And there are plenty of fantastic courses online that are free. I'm actually taking a course at Harvard that's free on neuroscience, learning all about the brain. Yale and Cornell and all of the other top-line universities are offering courses online. So I'll just give you a little peek at what Google has on their website. And you can learn things like digital marketing. There's 151 courses that are available. The fundamentals of digital marketing, get a business online. So there's tons of stuff here. It will tell you how many modules are contained within a study, how many hours. You can actually choose to have a certificate. You pay your $100 or whatever they're charging, and then you can have your certification in that particular discipline. So this is the time to level up. Okay, now, number 6, you want to remember that we are in a cycle and we are in a season, and that this too shall pass. You want to learn to make peace with the reality of the moment right now and know that some things will not go back to normal. Call a trusted friend when you're feeling anxiety. Call a trusted friend or a family member when you need emotional support or comfort, and a different perspective. And you can also journal your thoughts regularly. And that will give you the capacity to reflect, to do a self-audit, to further your development and your evolution.
There are 2 6s.
Okay. Somebody doesn't have their mic muted. Okay, now, one of the things we want to do is pay attention to deviances or patterns. So number 1, we want to pay attention. We want to notice the little things. We want to notice discrepancies, deviances, inconsistencies, error, failures that persist over time. So when the Hurricane Katrina happened, the levees in New Orleans were in disrepair for years, and they weren't fixed. And then we all know what catastrophe followed in New Orleans and other places that were underwater. Don't ignore that annoying pain or lump, because at the other end of the spectrum could lead to illness or cancer. Don't ignore that persistent toothache that could lead to a root canal. And the persistent negative thoughts could lead to a nervous or mental breakdown. So we've had the Spanish flu, AIDS, Ebola, SARS, and we can't say that we never saw it coming. We've had 100 years of pandemics. We've had the Black Death, the Spanish flu, the Asian flu. We've had AIDS. We've had H1N1, Ebola, Zika virus. And so preparedness mitigates risk. And so
What other trends are you actually noticing in the world and in your own life? So pay attention, notice the deviances. So the right mental environment required to thrive. You want to be mindful of the company that you keep. You want to be very aware of the energy vampires. The people that after you've had a conversation with them, they kind of suck your energy. You want to go and lie down. You want to watch what you feed your mind on social media, the news, even negative Nelly friends or influences. You want to look at your physical surroundings and make sure that you don't have excessive clutter or disorder. You want to look at your mental clutter, not defragging your thoughts. So defragmentation is when your computer has all the files scattered in different categories. And when you set the computer to defrag, it puts the files back in its proper place. And sometimes when you're pausing, you've got to put things back in their proper place. And you can do a personal defrag. You want to do regular exercise because it's proven to produce more oxygen in the brain and give you a sense of calm, and it trips off those happy endorphins. So that's a great thing. So build regular exercise into your day. The right nutrition and supplementation is also a great thing to have in your mental toolkit. Regular checkups with your family doctor, just because we're in COVID, is no reason to ignore checking up with your doctor. Many times they can do it virtually or by appointment. So make sure that you do your regular checkups. Now, we're going to look at our own personal mental disaster recovery and how we can survive and thrive through COVID. Our mental disaster recovery plan will require things like adopting a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. We want to be open and willing to thinking differently. We want to replace the old disempowering beliefs with new and empowering ones. And we want to be able to level up, again, as I mentioned before, developing new skill sets and abilities. And again, there's free courses online. So we're going to take a look at neuroplasticity, and we're going to take a look at what is actually neuroplasticity and how it affects the entrepreneurial mind, or any mind for that matter. Neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to form and reorganize synaptic connections or create new neural pathways, especially in response to learning, experience, or following injury. So rewiring your mind for thriving requires you to think differently. You can say, behold, I do a new thing. You can be the buffalo. This is a really interesting story about buffaloes. I told this last year for those who are in attendance, pardon the repetition, but I think it's a great story. There was a female chief by the name of Wilma Mankiller, best last name on the planet. And she noticed that when hurricanes and cyclones came, that the only animal that would not run away was the buffalo. The buffalo would dig its hind legs into the soil. It would bear itself to run directly at the cyclone or the hurricane, and it would charge at the hurricane and get through a lot faster. So instead of fleeing in fear, having anxiety and worrying of getting hit by a cyclone, the buffalo would just charge right through the adversity and the challenge. So sometimes in life, we got to be like the buffalo. Also, failure is a rite of passage when it comes to entrepreneurship, and we need to fail forward, take the collective wisdom, develop growth and wisdom from the experience, and keep it moving. Also, we want to manage and mitigate stress. We want to embed structure and a daily schedule into your day. That really helps to lessen the stress. We also want to cultivate the ability to focus. I started with trying to focus in blocks of 90 minutes, and I found that to be very effective. Forget about multitasking. Be a single task oriented person, and also make exercise a priority. Expect the unexpected. We don't want to be caught off guard like New Orleans or any of those other things that I mentioned in the previous slide. Recognize the deviances, pay attention, work on your self-confidence. Self-confidence actually comes incrementally. It's built over time. Solid self-confidence is built over time. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the 9 mental obstacles of an entrepreneur. Uncertainty, instability, lack of self-care, mental health, fixed mindset, fear factor, loneliness, poor management of times, relationship management, not being your own BFF. So let's take a look at the first one. The first one is uncertainty. And here's how we can mitigate against uncertainty. We want to assess how those changes might impact your life, your organization, or your industry. We want to gather insights on how to succeed in today's world. We want to assess what you know. We want to challenge your assumptions. We want to focus on flexibility, agility, positive outcomes, and resilience. Number two, instability. We want to look for specific opportunities, direct with your sector or your market. We want to develop a strong risk management plan. We want to find ways to reduce your burden. So if there are things that you can clearly automate, those are the things you want to be able to do. Also, you want to build a pause and don't panic. You can't make sound decisions when you are overwhelmed by panic. So you want to rest, then you want to plan, then you want to restore your emotional energy, and then act from a place of calm. Also, number five, you want to identify your financial stressors and again, make a plan. Three, not making self-care a priority. This is huge in the life of an entrepreneur, but it's huge in the life of everyday people that are going to work under very stressful situations. So actually what I recommend is actually blocking things into your calendar. So for instance, on Sunday, I call it self-care Sundays, and I will give myself a manicure or a pedicure or a facial or make a nice healthy meal or do my meal prep for the week. So making self-care a priority is essential. Also, tips on self-care. Now, number one, we want to follow a daily schedule. Again, we said it creates structure. Weekly meal prep. You want to nourish to flourish. Also regular exercise, go for a walk outside, journal your thoughts, take naps, schedule laughter breaks. What I often do and what I highly recommend is those happy endorphins that are tripped off by laughing is fantastic for relieving stress. I go on YouTube, I find some of my funny videos like Lucille Ball, I Love Lucy, or I'll find just, stand-up comedy on YouTube. And I find after an hour of laughing, I feel way better and I'm able to tackle the task at hand. Also practicing regular acts of kindness. Sending cards, bouquets, helping out a friend, thoughtful gift. It's a win-win for everyone. You feel better, they feel better, everybody wins. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at something called the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. And Carol Dweck, Dr. Carol Dweck, wrote a book called Mindset. It's actually in the recommended reading that I have at the end of the presentation, but just let's take a little micro look at what the fixed mindset is. The fixed mindset is where intelligence is static, it's not moving. It leads to the desire to look smart, but therefore it has the tendency to have you avoid challenges, give up easily due to obstacles, see effort as fruitless, also ignore useful feedback, and feel threatened by others' success. When you have a growth mindset, the intelligence, you know that your intelligence can be developed. And it leads to the desire to learn and therefore a tendency to embrace challenges, to persist despite obstacles, see effort as a pathway to mastery, also learn from criticism and be inspired by others' success. It actually also helps to build the new neural pathways in your brain, the neurotransmitters in your brain as well. So number 5 is actually the fear factor. So fear actually can be paralyzing and anxiety producing, make you feel very overwhelmed. The imposter syndrome, like you're out of your depth, lack of self-confidence. I can't seem to move past the last failure. And here are some suggestions on how to actually address it. So how to address it is you can play the what if game, but play the what if game on the positive side. What if things do work out? What if that next call is that big client that I've been looking to get? We can create an action plan. We can find a mentor either in people locally or in books or online. You can visualize your success. You can, every year I make a vision board of the things I want to accomplish, and I set my intentions well ahead of time. Take action, build momentum, incrementally build your self-confidence, and measure and track your success, and by setting goals. So loneliness is number 6 in the obstacles. COVID-19 has brought a lot of isolation due to social distancing and the lockdowns, and it also has intensified loneliness, and especially for people who live alone. So tips to address loneliness. We can make a list of activities that you can do by yourself. You can find the things that make you happy and bring you joy. I know that some people that I know are introverts right now are absolutely elated, and they're happy that they are working from home and they have time to themselves. So it's not all bad for everyone. Also, regular phone calls or Zoom calls with trusted and close friends or family, and see the difference. Try to see the difference between solitude and isolation. Loneliness is a feeling, but it's not a fact. It's all about your perspective. Focus on the needs of others, move your body to get those happy endorphins cracking, and consider going into therapy to gain an objective perspective. Again, you can journal your thoughts, get them out of your head onto paper. And we're going to move to number 7, which is poor time management and priority and use of resources. So I keep bringing these points home, the benefits of sticking to a daily schedule for all activities throughout the day. Not only will it promote structure, but it will increase your productivity, it will press order into your day, and it will reduce your stress level. And you want to be able to tackle your tasks in order of importance, relevance, time sensitivity, and that tie into your short-term or your long-term goals. And you want to be economizing your resources. So in terms of managing relationships, relationships in general are difficult to navigate. So part of the components of helping to navigate your relationships would be accepting and celebrating the differences, doing your best to listen effectively, learn to make time for the ones you love, develop your communication skills, manage your mobile technology. Sometimes it's best to just turn it off. Learn to give and take constructive feedback. Learn to watch people's consistent actions over time more than their words, and so that you can determine who are safe people and who are not safe people. And develop and practice empathy. Sometimes it's really good to put yourself in the shoe of somebody else. You may think that somebody's slighting you, but they may be overwhelmed and be taking care of a sick parent. So sometimes it's really best to try to exercise that empathy just to create understanding between mutual relationships. Okay, not being your own BFF, your own best friend. Beyonce has a song called Me, Myself, and I. And she said, there's a lyric that she says that I found out that there is no need to cry. I've got to learn to be my own best friend. And I love that particular song. And I think the message is pretty clear that we can't cultivate really healthy relationships with others until we actually cultivate healthy relationships with ourselves. So be authentic. I believe one of the singers said, it's better to be a first-rate version of yourself than a second-rate version of someone else. Practice self-compassion and forgiveness. Don't ruminate over the failures of the past. Just keep it moving. Establish healthy boundaries. Rest well and get quality sleep. Schedule your self-care and grooming. Watch your self-talk. So it's amazing how many times a day we actually say things not consciously about ourselves in a very negative way. So this is the time, and especially through COVID, to pay attention to your self-talk. Again, you gain self-confidence incrementally. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the profiles in the pivot, and I hope that everyone is on. And the first person up that we are going to take a look at, profile number 1, is Chadwick Creighton. And Chadwick is the CEO and the principal at Hookshot. And I'm just going to take a quick little look online so that you can see his website. Hopefully you can hear the testimonial. If you can't, then you could take a quick scroll, and Cleo, you can let me know if you're hearing the audio or not.
No, I think it probably not going to work because we had to finagle this a little bit, guys. So sorry about that. But what we can do, Carol, is
there's a link there, and you can take a look at his website. But I just
everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go back to the presentation.
Okay. Let's go back. Okay, so right now we're going to hear from Chadwick, and we are going to take a little break. I'm just going to exit from the presentation, and Cleo.
Chadwick, just you don't need to exit from the presentation if you don't want.
Oh, I know?
No.
Oh, okay.
Unless Chadwick is presenting anything, but he can just unmute himself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Chadwick?
you can leave it up, and then Chadwick, if you're here, you can just unmute your mic on the bottom left-hand side, and then you can go ahead and take it away.
Chadwick, are you here? Hello? I don't
see anyone named Chadwick in the.
Yeah, I don't think he's on the call. I know earlier he said he wasn't feeling well, so maybe he really became under the weather. But please, by all means, take a look at his website and contact him. He does video production. I'll just give you a little brief sort of synopsis on his business. He ran a business, VR Planet, with his sons, and of course, virtual reality businesses would be impacted greatly because of COVID, and so they decided to pivot and move into video production. And the genesis of Hookshot began, and now he's moving forward with a collaborative team, and Hookshot has done work for the city of Ajax, the mayor of Ajax, and they are just, gathering up steam. So this is a success story in the community, and Hookshot has done an amazing job with the assignments that they've taken on through COVID, and they're growing. So please, locally, take a look at their website and give them local support, because small businesses need our help right now. We want to know that we're going to end up on the other side of COVID, but we also want to know that small businesses and startups also come along for the ride on the other side of COVID. So please make sure that you check out his business. Okay. So now we're going to go to Shireen Lovemore, and we'll take a quick look at her website. And Cleo, is she on the call?
Let me see. I don't see anybody named Shireen on the call, but she might be underneath a different name. So Shireen, if you're on the call, can you please unmute your mic and let us know that you're here?
Okay. Maybe she had problems logging on as well. But anyway, this is what her website looks like. This is Shireen. And Shireen spent the last 17 years as a corporate chef, catering, and being the CEO and owner of a catering business. And Shireen actually, she decided that she was impacted by COVID, but also she decided that she wanted to follow her passion in life coaching. And so that's one of the things that Shireen has done. And now she has her new iteration of herself on the other side, doing what she loves. Also, she's doing online cooking classes. So she's found a way to parlay her skill sets and also make it relevant to now. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hear from Andrew Smith. He is the third company, and Andrew is the principal and founder of and owner of AWFS Consulting. It is an accounting practice, and we're going to take a brief look at his website. And again, Andrew has built his business over time, and he has decided now to collaborate. I will let him talk about his own personal story, but this is what his website looks like. All right. So, Andrew, if you will unmute your mic.
All right, already done.
All right. So, Andrew, please tell us your business story, and also please tell us about how you've been impacted by COVID. Also, can you tell us about how you pivoted and recalibrated, and can you tell us how to get a hold of you?
Okay, great. So my business story was I kind of bumped into entrepreneurship at the end of the day because I always knew I was one of the sick people who always knew that I wanted to be an accountant growing up, which is weird. But don't hold that against me.
We won't.
So my whole goal was to become a CFO of some company, and then in 30 years buy my burial plot and just meet my maker. And that didn't happen. I can't. So what tended to happen was you go out there and you imagine what your role is going to be and what your job's going to be, and I was never happy just doing the same thing, month end, quarter end, year end. It was just all the same to me. So at that point, and working for large companies is good because you get a steady paycheck, but I didn't feel that I was really helping people or doing anything for society in any way. And so right after getting my CA, actually, I did start to develop a clientele, and it kind of grew and grew and grew as I started working in the real world and realized that I didn't want to be there, and I needed to have a bit of self-determination for myself. So that's pretty much how the story goes. It was a slow build. I've built from, I got my CA in, I think 1992, and I've built it ever since. And I think we're in 2020 now. So it's been a little while since I've been doing this. So I know a little bit.
That's great. Awesome.
In terms of, and your next question was how the impact of, I guess.
The impact of COVID. Yeah. How has your actual business been impacted by COVID?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, strange because I was always generally, just because we're taking advantage of the internet and taking advantage of the technology of the day, there was always a bit of business that I've always done, and I never really met my clientele, but we talked on the phone or we talked through well, nowadays you're talking through like Zoom or WhatsApp, etc. So in essence, what has happened is that part of the business has more or less just expanded, and it's now almost the majority of the work that I do is really online, or where I don't even meet people or see them at all, which is kind of weird because I'm kind of like a guy who likes to sit down and know people and feed off their vibe kind of thing. So it's been that part has been weird and difficult, but in order to keep everybody safe, you just got to do what you got to do. And I hope, my hope is that we move back to the old dinosaur way of doing things, and, because I'm a dinosaur. But it will definitely. It is my belief that this will be the way things are. I do have a lot of retail stores who have also done that pivot, and with lockdowns and random lockdowns that have happened, randomly at the end of the day, they've had to say, okay, this is a part of the business that I have to grow and that I have to keep. If you look at the business that are striving nowadays, like the Amazons of the world, that's all they're doing. So they're making money, and they're doing very well because they were primed for this type of situation at the end of the day.
Of course. So how have you scaled up in any way, recalibrated in terms of collaboration? Are you thinking about scaling up in that terms?
Yeah, I mean, I've what's interesting is I've had other accountants reach out to me in terms of a bit of collaboration who are I have a couple of older ones who are afraid to leave their home, so I'm doing work for them because they got every pre-existing condition known to man. And I luckily do not, knock on wood. So there's been a lot of collaboration in that respect, and I just feel that whereas there would have been a bit more competition in that respect, I feel that even accountants and businesses are kind of striving and getting together with financial planners, etc., and just seeing a way that we can kind of develop a community for clients to help them. Because my whole thing is education and helping clients to understand my particular situation, the tax rules, accounting rules, etc., and business advisory in general. So that's where we've been moving to.
Excellent. Any advice for other small business owners during this time?
Yeah, I would take a note from the teacher, the music teacher. Ah! No. I had to get that in. But my advice is to stay nimble. We're learning now. Another thing that I'm really seeing now is brick and mortar. Brick and mortar is a thing that will always be there, but I don't think it's going to be as important. Whereas when I was coming up, it was always important to get that office, in that certain area of the city, so that people say, hey, you got an office here, that means you're successful. That doesn't mean anything in a pandemic. You're going to see a lot of larger companies now who have people working at home start to realize that, hey, I'm saving money. I don't need that many floors. And what I need to do is just have maybe one floor and have people hotel in and book their time in when they need to, or when they need to meet a client. Maybe I do need that Bay Street or that Yonge Street address, but maybe I don't need that much of it. So in my respect, I have an office in Scarborough, and I'm happy with it. So I've never been that downtown guy. I'm more of a country boy. And for me, that's never been important for me. But what was important for me was owning my office. So I do own it, which is a good thing. So, and I have control over it. I don't have to look at a rent man and give him money every month. Maybe the mortgage guy, that's a problem. Same dude, right? But at the end of the day, I have a bit more control, and I've limited my expenses as much as possible, my overhead, because mortgage is always cheaper than rent, right? And I've always stayed reasonable with my expenditures, and that allows you to be nimble, allows you to be flexible, and allows you to make moves where you need to in the short run rather than having to wait in the long run.
Great. That's great. Well, thank you. And, everyone on the call, please, by all means, look up Andrew. The link is in the slide deck, and just look him up and give him business. Give him business, because we want to support our local businesses. And one of the ways we can do that is shop local. Okay, so Andrew, thank you so much for being on the call. Thanks for these amazing tips. These are intrinsic of value, and I just wish you every success. You're a good egg. So thank you so much for being on the call.
Thank you very much. Great.
Okay, so we're going to continue on. And we've heard from Andrew. So let's do our part to support local businesses. And now we're going to get to the fun part of the presentation. This is going to be lessons and wisdoms from real life and pop culture. And as I said before, I love to do a mashup of extracting wisdom from pop culture and see how we can apply it to everyday life and see how we can apply it to business as well. All right. So here is, I don't know if anybody's seen there's a Netflix movie called The Queen's Gambit. Well, this is the real life Queen Gambit. This is the real life chess grandmaster. Her name is Judith Polgar. She comes from actually a family of chess players. And Judith Polgar is Hungarian. At the age of 15 and a half, she became the youngest chess grandmaster. She is generally considered the strongest female chess player of all time. I'm actually learning chess right now, and the game is one of absolutely intense strategy. So here are 5 tips that we can actually learn from chess players that we can apply to real life. So the first I talked about last year, and it's called Retrograde Analysis. And this takes the concept of looking back at our past moves in order to assess where we are to determine how we're going to move forward. And then the second concept from chess is called applying prophylaxis or prophylactic thinking. And this is the process of determining the best course of action to mitigate risk. I really like that concept. And then it's also being adaptable and flexible, also controlling the center. So a chess player always tries to control the center of the chessboard. And with you, as in life, you want to control your core, your soul, your inner sanctum, the place where you get your peace, the center. Also, chess players, grandmasters spot weaknesses right away. So do a SWOT analysis on yourself. That's strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And so here's a really interesting concept about chess grandmasters. So if you do 1 to 3 moves ahead, you are considered an amateur. If you do 4 to 5 moves ahead, you are considered a pro level. And if you do 6 to 10 moves ahead, you're considered a master. Now, when you do 11 to 15 moves ahead, if you're thinking 11 to 15 moves ahead, then you go into the terrain and category of the grandmasters. And also, this is taken from the book, Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David. And that book is listed at the end on the recommended reading. It's all about strategy. Now, let's be like Beyonce. Now, I've got to share with you that this slide is actually dedicated to my sister, Kim. My sister, Kim, has been from the Beehive before there was even a Beehive. We used to watch this show called Star Search, and Beyonce was with a little girl group called Girl Time, and my sister always loved her hustle and she loved her talent. And so one of the things that I've recognized about Beyonce over the years is that Beyonce uses the core of her gifting, and she uses it to put forth only excellence. She collaborates with excellence. She doesn't feel intimidated by other people who are equally excellent. She hustles in the dark. Every time she wows us, she's always working on a project in the dark. She doesn't tell anyone. And so we can adopt that kind of attitude. So hustle in the dark with excellence and then shine in the light. So all of us want to be a little bit like Beyonce. Okay, now, you can control your own mental playlist. So this is on the left is David Guetta. He is a world-renowned DJ. He's paid millions of dollars to do rave parties. And really, I'm using this analogy to say that you are DJ you. And so you determine what's on your playlist. So David's going to determine what's on the playlist to move the crowd. And you are going to determine on what's your mental playlist to move you. Is it going to be positive, energetic, happy, inspiring? Or is it going to be toxic, looking at the news all the time, going down the Facebook rabbit hole? You determine what your mental playlist is going to be like. So you're going to decide. So we want to be prepared for the fight like Jake. Growing up, my dad was a huge boxing fanatic, and I loved watching boxing matches with my dad and his friends. For me, it was always an analogy for life. And recently they had an exhibition fight with Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. And the opener was Nate Robinson, who is actually a professional basketball player. And he took on the challenge with Jake Paul, the YouTuber. He thought, no piece of cake. I can fight this guy. I'll knock him out. But what Nate didn't anticipate is that Jake had been training for a year. If you even look at his body, you can tell that he has put in the work in physical conditioning for the last year. And so within a matter of minutes, I don't even think it went 2 minutes, Nate Robinson was out cold. So what's the lesson here? Know what game you're playing, prepare for the fight, and get in the arena to win. So we don't want to be like Nate, we want to be like Jake. So one of my favorite quotes is by Colin Kaepernick. He says, stay ready so that you don't have to get ready. And I think it's a really kind of good way. Once you learn what you need to up your game in, then keep the oil in the machine. Don't wait until your gas tank is depleted. Keep staying ready. Okay, this recently was the exhibition fight between Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. Now, Mike Tyson is 54 years old and Roy Jones Jr. is 51. Mike Tyson hasn't fought in 17 years, and yet for the last year, he's put his body in the conditioning, and he actually looks way beyond he looks like how he did 17 years ago. And meanwhile, Roy Jones Jr. stopped fighting 2 years ago, and he's kind of let himself go. So we want to train and have laser-like focus like Mike, because we know that we have to train for the fight, and we don't want to be out of shape and hold on for dear life like Roy. So Roy knew that he was, even though Mike Tyson's older, when Mike Tyson started to punch him at the end, when the commentator spoke to Roy Jones, he said, what was it like in the ring with Mike Tyson? He said, I felt those punches to my core. So, and I just held on. Okay, this is the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. And so one of the really interesting observations that I've made over the years is when you see a hurricane coming, one of the things that hurricanes do, they tell you two things. Let's say a hurricane blows through the West Indies or blows through Toronto, but more, smaller places, let's say like the West Indies in the Caribbean. One of the things it's going to do is going to leave a wake and a path of destruction. But the other thing it's going to do, it's going to tell you what buildings are still standing and which buildings are built according to code. So the Burj Khalifa is 163 floors high. It's the tallest freestanding structure in the world, or at least one of them. And in order to get up 163 floors high, also with the wind blowing, they are going to have to actually dig 163 floors deep so that the structure can stand and has a solid foundation below the ground. So when we have things like COVID-19, you're going to have to dig deep. What are you putting in your mental toolkit? What are you putting in your spirit, your soul? How are you deep diving? How are you building yourself according to code so that when you go out there, that you're not going to be blown over like with a hurricane of life. So Bruce Lee, I've always loved the way that Bruce Lee has had, a physical discipline and how he has been a consummate fighter. So we want to be like Bruce, and Bruce tells us to be like water. He tells us to be adaptable, develop mental and physical toughness and test yourself in those areas, and also to be fluid like water. When water is in a cup, it becomes the cup. When water is in the ocean, it becomes the ocean. It takes on the form of whatever is around it. So we want to be fluid and adaptable like water. This is Nadia Chalpang Masood, and she is the 11-year-old, just recently crowned 2020 Ghanaian Spelling Bee champion. And she is headed off to the Scripps Spelling Bee Championship. Whenever this is on TV, I mute my phone. I don't answer my door. I don't answer anything. I'm fascinated by these kids that spell all these different words. And actually her word is, and I'm going to try to pronounce it, triskaidekaphobia. And her favorite word means the fear of the number 13. So what I love about these spelling bee champs is that they cultivate discipline from the onset, and it's steeped in repetition until in order for them to get mastery. So we can learn from Nadia. So one of my favorite animals beside the Black Panther is the wolf. I love the beauty of the animal. I just like the ferocity. I love the way that wolves look. And so in life, are we going to be the lone wolf? Sometimes in entrepreneurship and sometimes in life, we're going to have to go it alone. And other times we need to be a part of the wolf pack. What I love about wolves are that wolves, they will run in a pack. And if one of the wolves are wounded at the back of the pack, they will send the next two strongest wolves to go at the back of the pack to bring up the rear. So they never leave a wounded wolf behind as long as they can run with the pack. And I love that philosophy for life in terms of having friends. When we have friends that are, weak, that we bring up the rear. And I think it's a great analogy for life. So what we can learn from eagles, and this is how to address our haters, our detractors, the naysayers, the people who say, oh, you can't do that. You've got dreams and aspirations, and they find a way to kill your joy. Well, the eagle has a beautiful wingspan. And what I love about the eagle is that they don't waste their energy. So the crow is the only bird that will hop on an eagle's back, and they will peck and peck away at the eagle. But the eagle doesn't waste any energy or time with the crow. What the eagle does, the eagle will fly higher and higher and higher. And soon as the eagle gets to a certain altitude, the crow will fall away because they will basically asphyxiate. They can't breathe at that altitude and they will just fall away. So this is an analogy for life too. You want to be of a higher consciousness. You want to be of a higher thought life. You don't want to spend any attention on haters, naysayers, detractors. And so Friends, there was a song in the 70s or 80s called by Houdini, a rap group called Houdini, and it says, friends, how many of us have them? Friends, the one you can depend on. Now, my friend happens to be, this good friend in this picture here is my cousin Penny. And Penny, not only is she a good friend, our parents were friends from childhood, and she's pretty much my ride or die. And she's the type of person that we all need in our life. She is the person that will yank my coattails and tell me, you know what, you're acting crazy. And if I'm getting bent out of shape or stressed, she will say, Carol, you know what, gather yourself together. There was a time that I actually went to do a speaking engagement, and Penny was there. The slide deck was static. All my animations were not forwarding. There were a lot of things. The room wasn't set up in the orientation that I had wanted. And she could see right away by the look on my face that I was stressing. And there was a camera at the back of the room getting ready to film me. And she said, Carol, look at the back of the room. Do you see that blue light? When you are out in public, the blue light is always on. Get yourself together. I have never forgotten that philosophy. And by the way, Penny is one of the premier rappers in Toronto. She is an OG. She is in the Canadian Hip Hop Hall of Fame, and she was curated in the Toronto Library. She's also a community contributor and developer, and she gives a lot of shine to local businesses, and she has also worked with the Deputy Mayor, Mike Thompson, and she is the person that you need supporting you. So every time you have a Gail an Oprah in your life, you need a Gail, and vice versa. And it's really great when you can have friendships where you can switch roles. When I'm doing something and it has an elevated spotlight, she's there in the background. And when she's doing emceeing for weddings or big events, then I'm there being her Gail. So you need people like that in your life. And here's a look at some of my old-time peeps. We need peeps in our community. We need a tribe. So thankfully, I still have people in my life from junior high school. These two guys here, this is a junior high school picture of us in student council. And fast forward some, 40 years later, this is us last year at a house gathering. Again, my childhood friends, this is an 11-year-old me and my friends Sonia and Lisa. And here is us just last year yucking it up. And again, this is my good friend Jamie from my church community, and my church has been an amazing community. You need a community of friends. I don't care if it's your mosque, I don't care if it's your sewing club, I don't care if it's your motorcycle club. You need a tribe. And that is one of the things that is going to keep you resilient if you make sure that your tribe is close by. I also have ladies that are on this call that amazing, that are my accountability partners as well. I have a group of ladies that we just pray together, and we put whatever the concerns of our hearts into the chat, and then we support each other that way. It takes a team to build a dream. Okay, life happens when we are making other plans. And don't we all know this too well? So another one of my favorite quotes, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. That's what Mike Tyson said. And this, real life can punch you, can feel like a punch in the face, catch you off guard, and take the wind out of you. Here are some of the real life punches to the face. Unexpected illness, you or your spouse or your parents or your friend, a relative, or worse yet, a child going through a divorce or a relationship breakup, unexpected death of a loved one. A lot of people are losing family and loved ones through COVID and just catching them totally off guard. Depression, you could be running a company and all of a sudden you're beset. You don't know why, you can't get up in the morning, and then you're suffering from mental illness and you've got people depending on you for their paychecks. You can have a business partner, a partnership go sideways, or you can lose a major customer that deepens your business, or you can lose your job. So just sharing my own personal story, this is what my punch in the face looked like about 3.5 years ago. One morning I had got off the side of my bed and it felt like the most excruciating pain that I could ever imagine. When I tried to walk, it was agonizing. Fast forward, 15 different drugs, 3 sets of different doctors, hospital visits. Here, I almost died. My toxic levels were so high that one of my friends was with me for 22 hours, and this was the amount of solution they had to put in my body. After that scenario, I ended up having to use a walker for the better part of 3 months. And I made a decision that I didn't want that walker in my living room. I thought if I started to get dependent on it, then I wouldn't want to get better. So I asked the occupational therapist to remove the walker. I also went through, because it was an autoimmune disorder, I went through hair loss. All of my beautiful shoulder length hair that I had for more than 50 years had fallen out in clumps, so much so that when I was in the bathroom one morning, I screamed because I thought I saw a mouse. Only on closer inspection did I see that it was my hair. And every morning I would wake up and see hair loss. I've gone through about 10 different cycles of hair loss, and a great friend of mine, when it was looking very patchy and very bad, said she would go with me to the barber. So there again, you need your friends. And she stood there while I cried, while they shaved off my hair, and what I thought at the time was my identity. And only to learn over the months that it didn't make a difference to my friends. I had to get used to the new reality of what was happening in terms of my health. And just put one foot in front of the other, was able to make a path. And this next slide is really, when I see this, I feel very elated, because this particular day, I had gone to the studio. Actually, prior to this, the producer of the show and the executive of the show, Patricia Mawa, she called me. She's heard me speak a year before at a First Friday event. And she said, I'd love to have you on my television show. And I didn't know who she was at the time. I didn't know the reach, the influence. I didn't know about her and her husband's accomplishments. Anyway, she did call me a year later. And at the time, I was in agonizing pain. I was having nerve pain, 30, taser-like symptoms by noon. And I called my cousin Penny and I said to her, Penny, do you think I should do the show? I'm in so much pain. Anyway, Penny said, look, it's an opportunity. I will help you. And with the help of my cousin and my mentee, we went to do the shoot with the show. We got to the studio, and wouldn't you know it, the elevator wasn't working. So in agonizing pain, I had to walk up 3 flights of stairs. My mentee had to hold my handbag, and they had to help me up those stairs. We were a little bit behind in shooting schedule, and the nerve pain was going a mile a minute. And so when we started to shoot, when I look at this picture, and this is also me being 35 pounds heavier than I am right now, with all the steroids and everything I was taking, I gained a lot of weight. This is me wearing a wig because I'd lost my hair, and I thought if I go on TV, I felt comfortable. But here's the thing, sometimes you've got to play wounded, and you've got to endure the pain, and you've got to keep it moving. And so when I look at this picture, I see victory. You got to be like Maximus. We got to be like Maximus in The Gladiator. I love this movie. Okay, now we're going to talk about the road to resilience. And there is a direct path to resilience, and it will involve these 5 things. The first thing is self-awareness, getting a real grip on who you are, where you want to go, and what you need to get there. And you need to take a look at your communication style, your habits, everything about that, the composite that makes you. Then you're going to take a look at your purpose. And if you haven't figured it out yet, then your next task and your next goal is to figuring out what your purpose is. You can ask friends, you can look at patterns over time, do some retrograde analysis, look at the things that you did well, and then come up with what you really feel is your purpose. My purpose for me was always very clear, that I was an encourager, that I was somebody who always wanted to give hope to others, and that I wanted to share all of the interesting things that I learned with other people so they could make informed decisions. So I knew very clearly what my sense of purpose was. And also mindfulness, that getting to your center. I talked earlier about your inner sanctum. That is the sacred place that only you enter, not your friends, not your family. It's where you have a relationship with some people. It can be the divine, or it can be, with your consciousness. But Mindfulness is a place that will get you there. So practicing silence, meditation, those things. Also, we talked about cultivating relationships and how central that was also to building the pillars of resilience. Self-care. And right now, just to have a little tweet break, I'm going to give you about a minute. And right now, just if you've got Twitter, just tweet your experience on this presentation at the Startup School. Are you? And then you can also tag me in on it, and also tag let the Startup School trend. All right, so definitely do that. Okay, so now we're going to round it up. So here are some of the key takeaways for tonight. To thrive, we need to adopt a growth mindset. We need to be invested in our own development, our own transformation, our own evolution. And we need to get our mental internal game right. We want to keep our mind right, and we want to keep our body tight. And we want to get regular exercise, and we want to nourish to flourish. We want to fly higher like the eagles, and we want to get rid of your haters and detractors by getting to an altitude that they can't breathe in. We know it takes a team to build a dream. And one of my friends, actually, who is another Canadian rap icon, Maestro Fresh West, he sang a song, Stick to Your Vision. And sometimes I'll play that in the background just to give me some theme music when I'm trying to be productive, to remind myself to stick to my vision. Also, sometimes it's best to keep your dream to yourself. So we're going to be like Beyonce. Sometimes it's not good to tell people what you're doing. And don't be like Joe. And another story I wanted to share with you, just a quick story, was, there was this guy named Joe. And Joe used to wear all these flashy suits. And, he was the favorite of his father, because his father loved his exuberance. His father loved that he was, lively. And the other brothers built a hatred towards Joe. And so one day there was a passing caravan, and they were trafficking people, slave trafficking, and, into indentured servitude. And the brothers thought, you know what, this guy's always yapping. And Joe made the mistake of telling them one day, you know what, I think one day I'm going to be Prime Minister of Canada. I'm going to be like authority over you guys. I'm going to be making decisions for the country. And the brothers are like, oh yeah? So they sold him into traffic, went back to the dad. They threw some blood on his jacket and said to the dad, you know what? We found his jacket. We think he got killed. We can't find the body. Joe languished in obscurity. And Joe went to work for this guy, Pete. And Pete had a wife, and the wife was, kind of had the hots for Joe, because Joe was a good looking guy. And then the next thing you knew, she tried to make a move on Joe, but Joe wanted to keep his integrity. So Joe says, I can't do that. This guy put me in charge of his household. I can't, compromise the trust we have with each other by fooling around with his wife. So she cried, rape, rape. They came and locked up Joe. Joe languished in jail. There was a guy in jail with him that said, hey, you know what? He said to the guy, you know what, if you get out before me, tell the guy who's the primate, the current king, tell him that I can interpret dreams, right? So he gets out, and what happens? He languishes in jail for like 13 years. And then one day, the guy who got out remembers, oh yeah, there's a guy who can interpret dreams. So he gets out, and the king loves him so much, he promotes him to Prime Minister of Canada. Well, guess what? He ends up meeting up with the same brothers that threw blood on his jacket and told the dad he died. And when they saw him, they thought, oh my God, this guy's going to kill us. But he decided, you know what? I don't have time for retribution. I don't have time for hating. And because he had the insight to gather things through COVID and store up things in a modest, conservative way, he was able to get the brothers and everyone through COVID. So sometimes we got to keep our mouth shut. And a lot of times we got to hold on to that integrity that we have. Anyway, so we don't want to be like Joe in telling too much, and we do want to be like Joe in keeping our integrity. Now, here is a download. This is the mental health guide, and this is just going to pop up. It's going to take you to CAMH, And you will see all of the different guides and publications here on alcoholism, depression, and it's listed by subject matter, bipolar, a lot of great resources in that link. So please take advantage of that. And that's a PDF that you can download, as well as we want to. Okay, now this is the recommended book list. So for leaders. So leaders are readers. And the first book I'm recommending harkens back to the beginning of the presentation on mindset. She talks about the fixed mindset. She talks about the growth mindset. Also, this is an exceptional book called The Owner's Manual for the Brain. It's the 4th edition by Pierce J. Howard. Also, the next two books were recommended to me by my sister. She said they are amazing, phenomenal reads. So I thought, okay, I'm going to make a note of it. When the Body Keeps the Score, Brain, Mind, Body in the Healing of Trauma. And also When the Body Says No, The Cost of Hidden Stress by Dr. Gabor Mate. Also, Mastering Your Emotions has really good book reviews. Thabalt Maurice, and also COVID-19, The Great Reset by Klaus Schwab and Thierry Malaret. And also, I mentioned earlier, Your Next 5 Moves, the Master the Art of Business Strategy. So there you have it. 7 good books to start in with the new year for 2021 to put into your mental toolkit. And here is what my greatest hope is for this particular lecture, is to be encouraged, to hold on to your hope for brighter days, to keep the faith and protect your inner sanctum, to have the attitude of gratitude, to be grounded in reality, and yet also know that the possibilities are endless, and this too shall pass. We are in a season, we are in a cycle. And what you do within it is going to tell the difference on the other side of it. And I really hope deep in my heart for all of you that you thrive and flourish. And so now, any questions? And also, how you can get a hold of me is please follow me on Twitter at Carol Leeds. I'm going to be setting up actually an Instagram on, that's soon to come, actually in the next day, on 4-H Living. So we've got that in the bookmarked. And so please follow me at Carol Leeds.
So I don't see any questions in the document, Carol, but actually what we'll do, because sometimes people forget to write in there. So anybody who has a question, just unmute your mic and let's just do it like we've been doing it the past sessions. And you can feel free to ask Carol whatever you guys want. We'll hang out here for a bit and
All right.
questions and we can do it.
Hi, it's Penny. Carol, how do you, what advice would you give to somebody who's not used to working remotely and working like, working from Zoom all the time, and trying to start up a business? Like what advice would you give them on how to connect with their clients and to be able to work in the new normal?
That's a very good question. First of all, it's embracing the new normal, just dealing the reality. Sometimes it's tough to think, we went to the way of interpersonal reaction. Some people naturally, or they're gifted at interpersonal, and then now we have to work in a very remote and fragmented workplace. I would say practice on the tools. Even me, myself, this is a very strange way because I'm a very person that loves interpersonal. I would say to that person, Penny, I would say to get used to just go on the platforms and play with it. Take a Saturday, maybe block off 2 hours and go on Zoom with your friends and then get used to that platform. And also tell yourself that it's going to pass. So get used to the platform and get a circle of friends as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Oh, Carol, I see one in the document. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Okay, so how do you push past the pain when you have a lot of work and you're still faced with a debilitating illness?
Okay. How do you push past the pain when you have a lot of work and you are facing the when you're facing illness? Uh, with me, it's drilling things down. Maybe before you could do 10 things, and maybe now with illness in play, you can only do one thing. And so it's to go for the small little wins and change your expectation. So with me right now, I am still navigating my health challenges, but now added to that, we're in a global pandemic, and I have a mother who has vascular dementia and a dad who has Alzheimer's. And, for us, in the call that are boomers, this is a cycle when many of us are going to see sick parents going to nursing homes or long-term care facilities. And some of us are going to have to hold in shelter in place at home. So I think sometimes you have to just slow it down, find the lowest common denominator just to get one win. Don't try to do a million things. Maybe it might be that one thing. So that's what I would recommend.
There's another question.
Okay.
They say, Carol, if you don't have a tribe, how do you go about forming one?
That's a great question. I remember when I had to do sort of an edit of my friends, some of my friends, and there are great organizations called meetup.com. I'm sure Meetup is online, but before COVID, what I would do, because I loved brunching, and I would go to the cheap and cheerful brunches on Meetup, and I would meet a circle of people that shared an interest with brunches. And it was a good way, very casually, for me to expand my network, as well as, I have a passionate love for classic jazz, and I would go to the classic jazz Meetup. Or I might even I was studying Spanish and I wanted to practice my Spanish, and there was a meetup for people who wanted to practice their Spanish. So meetup.com is based on your interest, and it's a great way that you can actually, try to connect with other people. When you have a common interest in common, it makes it a lot easier to make friends. So thank you for your question, and I hope that helps.
Awesome. We have another one. How do you handle, how does one handle being excluded at their workplace or organization or community?
We always have the option to find new communities or a new workplace. Again, we don't want to get into a fixed mindset thinking that there are no open possibilities. It might take, Saturdays that you start brushing up your resume. It might take reading a book on how to do cold calling or send an unsolicited letter. But you always have the opportunity to change your life. If you don't like where you are, then go to another community. I'll give you a personal example of mine. I was going to a couple of churches, and not that the service wasn't great, it's just that I felt that I wanted more. And it took me 3 church moves to find the church that I like right now, and I've been there for 20 years. So sometimes you just got to move from the position in a circle that you're in and try and seek out another circle. And I think sometimes it will just take some research. But definitely, if you don't like the people that you're with, change them.
I love it. I'm just taking a peek in the chat to see if there's anything else, but it doesn't look like there is. So Carol, I just want to tell you, actually, in the chat comment box, because I don't need to see it right now. Yeah. We have a whole bunch of people. So Brenda said, excellent presentation, lots of valuable tips and info. Lisa said, thank you so much, super great information. Someone else gave a tip that Zoom also gives free training, just FYI. Excellent. Marie said, thank you, Carol. I love how you updated your presentation to make it relevant for COVID times. Larry said, thank you. Everybody is very, very happy, which is really, really lovely. And I just wanted to let you know that they gave all this feedback in the box, and I know it's definitely way harder to do startup school digitally than in real life. Guys, I swear, if startup school ever comes back in real life, like, I mean, like this is good. Don't get me wrong. It's digital. It's cool and everything like that. But in real life,
In real life, I have a ball. Yeah, it's amazing.
So much better. Everybody, we have pizza. We like mix and mingle. Everybody keeps, you know, our speakers until 9 p.m. and I have to like kick people out.
Yeah,
So good. But Carol, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate you. Everybody, thank you for coming to our last session of the semester. Like high fives all around.
Thank you. High fives to everyone.
And
thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And everyone, thanks for being patient with our good old technical difficulties that we haven't had all the entire semester until right now. But you know, all gravy. So everyone have a wonderful night. Presentation. Wait, Carol, do you share your slides? I can't remember.
I will share the deck with you and you can send it out.
Got it. So presentation and video will be up on our website, guys, by the end of the weekend. If you don't know where our website is, go check the invite for the thing, because I get emailed a surprising amount of times. Like, what's the website? And they emailed me.
Thank you.
Our mail out with the website in it. But anyways, that's totally beside the point. So yeah, guys, it will be up by the end of the weekend, along with the video if you want to, you know, come back to it, whatever the case is. And we will see everyone again in January. Have a great night, guys.
Thanks, everyone.